Welcome to the Indie Music Room, a conversation with independent artists about writing, recording, performing, and promoting their original music. And now here's your host, Heather Kelly.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Heather Kelly with the Indie Music Room, and I'm excited today to share with you our next guest, Brandon Scott Sellner. Hey Brandon, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. Why don't you tell everybody where you're at right now?
In my little basement studio / hangout in Statham, Georgia.
Where's that in Georgia again?
Statham, Georgia.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I knew you lived there, but I couldn't remember the state or the city, so that's good to know. I just want to start.
It's just outside of.
Go ahead.
It's just outside of Athens.
Okay, great. I want to get started. I do know you personally. I've had the privilege to play with you in our band a few times, and in a way, we kind of grew up together at the studio. So that's my connection with you. But why don't you tell everybody, going clear back, how you got started with music?
Well, I started playing when I was about 15. I took a few lessons at a local music store in New Ulm, Minnesota. I grew up in Sleepyhead, Minnesota. After high school, I moved to Mankato with plans to go to college and had met some guys that had a little studio and jam space in Old Town, Mankato.
Yeah.
And kind of fast forward, I met Jared Winger. I think he was playing drums for a band called Hell or High Water, which the band leader was friends with a lot of the guys that I was playing with and recording with and jamming with. And he said, I know a guy that's got a studio. Would you be interested in coming to Iowa and checking it out? And that's all that he really, that's as far as it went. And at that point I was kind of chomping at the bit to get a change of scenery. And I came down to Otho, Iowa and met Kirk. And I think that night we recorded maybe one or two of my songs and a Hendrix tune. And it all just kind of went from there.
So were you actually playing with the band at the time, or were you just breaking off into solo?
I had a little band. We were just doing a couple gigs here and there. I wasn't singing at the time. I had a friend of mine, Phil Stoutenberg, was singing for us. And I just kind of shifted gears and decided to try something a little outside of the box, and packed up all my stuff and moved to Iowa.
Well, that took some guts just to uproot yourself. So you did move to Iowa. Where did you end up moving to?
Where was I in Fort Dodge? I'm so bad with directions. My wife can attest to that. Just a little duplex close to a park across from a bridge. Does that ring a bell?
Sure. There's a couple bridges, couple parks in town. So I see where you're at.
It was like on 7th Street, I think, or something like that. We were right on the corner.
Okay.
So Kirk could probably tell you where it was at, but I forget the exact directions.
Yeah. For some reason, I had a thought in my head that you lived in Manson at one time. Is that inaccurate?
No, Manson was like a second home to me. I've always thought that if I ended up living in Manson, I probably never would have left Iowa, just because those people they're still so supportive and so good to me. My friend Todd Partlow and just everyone in Manson has just always been great, and always it's been just a place. When I was gigging a lot, we could always count on them to get us a gig there, So I've always loved that town.
Great. So for all of our fans out there that don't know who you are, tell them, I know you're an excellent guitar player, one of the best that we've heard around. So guitar player, do you play any other instruments? I know you've done some singing in the past.
Interestingly enough, on these songs, there's one that doesn't have bass, but I played bass on 2. So all you bass players out there, don't judge.
Yeah.
And played a little organ on one of the other songs, kind of dabbling in piano and just learning how to read sheet music and stuff like that, and just be a better all around musician, So everything is very experimental, but I'm just kind of going off of, songs that I've heard and trying to come up with parts that are similar to those in the songs that I love,
Right. Did you say that you were learning to read music on piano, or do you play just by ear? Or are you just reading the sheet music?
unfortunately for guitarists out there that, maybe some will agree or disagree, but in my opinion, it's one of the few instruments where you can do a lot with it without knowing hardly anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I've always, I've always relied on my ear, which always served me well, but I knew very little about theory. So within the last 5 to 7 years, since I moved down to Georgia,
Okay.
I thought, boy, I better kind of hit the books here, because a lot of these guys, coming out of Nashville are smoking players and can play circles around anybody, So I just have to learn a little bit enough, just enough to keep up for what we were doing, the band that I was in down here at the time, and I just kind of took off with it. It's like been unraveling, like a snag on your shirt, and once it gets caught on something, it just keeps going, So the beauty of music is there's no amount of one lifetime where you can master everything. So I'm constantly learning new ways to teach myself new things. So I would encourage anybody out there that doesn't have a lot of music theory to kind of dabble into some of that. It can kind of stunt you for a minute, but once you kind of put the puzzles together, it really opens new doors. So
that's good advice, Brandon. One of the first that you wrote that we're going to play today is called Everlasting Lullaby. Can you tell me a little bit about this song and how it came about?
Can we do the Journey first? I'm sorry.
Oh, you know what? The Journey is exactly what you had down. I don't have my glasses on either, so I can't see anything. But let's talk about The Journey. How did that song come about?
It was just a melody that was in my mind, and just, I don't want to say tormenting me, but it was really pressing to be put down on something. And I just kind of came up with the riff, and I think I've just played it around the house a little bit. And finally I was like, I need to get this out of my head before it drives me crazy. And it's just kind of a metaphor for the whole process. When things kind of slowed down with my band in St. Paul, it was a kind of a rude awakening. And I had a lot of ideas as far as songs that were based on my experience in the music business. And I scrapped them all because they just were too negative, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And The Journey was one of the first songs that came about after that process. And it just kind of wrote itself.
Well, wonderful. Here we're going to listen to The Journey by Brandon Scott Sellner. that was The Journey by Brandon Scott Sellner. And Brandon, that is an amazing song. I'm so glad to hear that one. Did you do all these parts yourself, or do you have people playing with you? Or where are you recording all these?
I'm actually recording everything. What's the best way? Right here behind me.
Oh, there's your studio.
Yeah, everything's backwards on Zoom here. So left is right, right is left. I'll kind of give you a brief breakdown. As far as drums, again, drummers don't judge me. I'm using a software called Easy Drummer, and you can kind of manipulate the fills and sounds and it's as vast as you want it to be, basically. I've got a 2-channel M-Audio interface, so I could record drums, and I have plenty of friends that are drummers and studios around here, but I want to just kind of keep everything as internal as possible. So drums and a lot of the euphoric synth keyboard sounds, those are computer generated, and then I'm playing guitar and bass on the ones that have bass, as I mentioned before. And I'm just as I'm working on more of the songs, I'm trying to implement more analog instruments, as far as, like I said, the keyboards and organ and stuff like that, and just do as much as I can myself before I seek outside assistance.
Right. Well, it's good. It's good to have that ability to do it at home, especially right now with the pandemic. We have had the studio closed for almost a year now. We're not having people come in and out. So if you want to
get mentioned.
Yeah, we don't want the funk. So we've been kind of keeping it closed off to the public. I know you've done some recording here at Juniors. Have you recorded at any other recording studios?
We'll kind of continue off of the path of moving to Iowa. Kirk was so gracious to me to just let me use the studio as like a personal playground and just let my, creative influences just pour out on tape. I really didn't understand how great of a gift it was at the time until, you look back and you realize, wow, nobody that I knew got that kind of welcome, to the world of recording. Nothing's compared to it since, to be honest. I recorded at a couple other small studios when I was in the band here in Georgia, the Daniel Lee Band. We were privy to the recording session in Nashville. They used a lot of session guys for that, but we were able to get on one track. And it was a great experience, but it really wasn't much more than, nothing could compare to the time that I had at Juniors with Kirk and all the great musicians out there. And honestly, I try to take that mentality to just recording right here in my basement. It's just a at home and comfortable environment. And then that's the perfect building block. You can go from there. There's no intimidation of where you are and who you're working with. It's just, you have to hold you accountable and get stuff done.
Yeah, exactly.
I found that I define myself as I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Oh, I define myself as a procrastinating perfectionist, and I'm trying to change that.
I like that.
Change it.
So, Kirk and I, and you, we've all recorded in this historic little recording studio, which is analog. Do you have a preference between the old analog versus the digital recording these days?
Everyone can attest that analog is just its own entity, and even people that record digitally still, I believe, bounce it to analog to get that warmth and that feel.
Right.
The one thing I like about digital is, when you're recording, you can kind of see when something's coming.
Yeah.
As far as your punches, Kirk's famous line would be, "Okay, rolling."
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You're hold on for dear life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they both have their benefits. Obviously, sound wise, analog is the real deal. But digital just has like a hi-fi, everything's just magnified for good or for bad,
Right.
I'm constantly going back and realizing I don't like that note, and it had nothing to do with what I was playing. It was, how the computer interpreted it. And I don't have the top-notch equipment. I'm just doing the best with what I got. I plan on upgrading as I go, but for right now, it's serving its purpose to just get these ideas out,
Right. Exactly. Well, the next song we were going to talk about, I believe, is called Still Dreaming. Do you
Yep.
have any words about that one, how that came up, or any inspiration behind the song?
Well, it kind of came in two pieces. Again, all these are instrumentals, so it's hard to really explain where any of it comes from. The benefit is I don't have to try and figure out where I'm going to put lyrics, since I'm not singing anymore. I still haven't gotten past my vocal inhibitions, whatever issues I had from years ago. But honestly, it's opened up a whole new world of just artistic, free range to put down whatever I'm feeling inside and whatever I can manipulate on the guitar. But this one was just, again, another riff, another melody. And then I was wondering, how am I going to start this song? And I was listening to a little bit of Eric Johnson, and I can't even really explain what he does, but when you hear the first riff, players out there will understand. I had this little intro riff, or just a riff, I should say, and I was like, that would sound great in front of this song, and it all just kind of came together and worked out. So
great. Well, let's have a listen to Still Dreaming by Brandon Scott Sellner. Dreaming by Brandon Scott Sellner. Brandon, you're just getting better and better like a fine wine with age. Telling you.
Thank you.
I really haven't heard you play for a long time, but it just sounds like you've really honed in on your skills and it sounds tight. You were the role in the shop when you came to Junior's Motel, so Kirk saw potential in you, and it's fun to watch you grow.
Well, a lot of the recording I did with Kirk, everything was, very experimental, like when you're playing live, which you understand, everything just kind of happens in the moment. So you don't really have to put your playing under a microscope. You're just on to the next part or the next song or whatever. But, the process of recording is it really teaches you what you need to work on, and again, being a perfectionist, I probably take way longer to do this stuff than I should, but there's a certain standard to what I want it to sound like. It might not be, I'm no Joe Satriani, but I'm not really trying to be either. I'm just trying to take bits and pieces out of everybody's bag and put it into my own thing, but a lot of this stuff is very much influenced by Satriani and Guthrie Govan, guys like that.
Right.
It might not sound like it on the other side, but that's where it's coming from. A lot of other instrumentalists out there.
Yeah. You and I had a little bit of a pre-conversation before our interview, and you were mixing some things for me, and you're like, I don't know if I'm just too close to it or if I've played it too much. I think I got to change this, or, I've done that too in that process where you just keep listening and you can't seem to let it go, and it's hard when you have that perfectionism about yourself. But
I think Kirk again was always like, at some point it's got to be done. You can always go back and do whatever, but at some point you got to kind of let it free, but I think you're referring to that bass line in Still Dreaming. To me, it was, when I was recording, that sounds great, but you listen to it in the truck or whatever, and it's a little hot, so it's got to be, cohesive, I guess. It's got to all work with everything else,
Right.
So.
Well, that's great. Now let's just talk about your personal life. I haven't seen you for years, but I stalked you on Facebook and I found out that you were married and you have a beautiful addition to your family.
Yeah, my wife Casey, my two stepchildren Jolie and Jaden, and my daughter Everly, who just today, within the last couple of days, has taken her first steps. So that's exciting.
How exciting! Does she love watching Dad play?
She tries to get to the guitar as much as she can. So we just kind of, play around with the strings and do whatever. She's just a year old. So, but I bought her a little keyboard from Amazon and just trying to encourage her. Casey bought her little music makers and tambourines and stuff. So she's over there with her xylophone making all sorts of noise. So
that's great.
It's definitely been the most amazing adventure I've ever had in my life. So
that's awesome. And how about the stepkids? How old are they?
20 and about to be 17.
Okay.
So
and is there one of them musical or?
Jaden's playing a little guitar. He's getting into Nirvana and stuff like that. So he's asking me to show him a couple riffs, and he picks up pretty quick.
Does he?
I showed him some stuff years ago, but like I've told him, I started playing when I was 15. There was times when I put the guitar under the bed for a month or two or whatever, just wasn't into it. Music will be there for you whenever you're ready, so there's no timeline in my opinion. I mean, obviously the more you play, the better you get, but it's something that you have to want to do and are inspired to do. I told them I'll never make it homework. I'll never give them an assignment, Yeah,
that takes the fun out of it, doesn't it?
Well, a little bit.
We're going to talk about the last song you have, and then we're going to talk with everyone a little bit after this song about how we can follow you, how we can keep in touch with you, and what your future plans are. So the last but not least song that we're going to talk about is the Everlasting Lullaby. Correct.
Yep.
Wait. Yeah, that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is it? It is a Sunday, so you got to give me credit for that. Can't read my own writing, but yeah. So Everlasting Lullaby. Tell me about that one.
It again, just kind of, actually that song started out as an intro to another idea. I was listening to a Ry Cooder song, the Feeling Bad Blues, I think, it's made famous from Crossroads with Ralph Macchio or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's just an amazing slide guitar player. And again, I was just trying to kind of grab any influence from that as I could. And just, it turned into something entirely different. I scrapped the idea of the song post intro and just went with the whole vibe of what the intro was to make the song. And initially I was going to use it as a tribute to some friends of mine that are no longer here. And as I went along, I changed the title and decided to kind of dedicate it to my daughter, Everly. So
that's the first thing I thought of when I heard it. I thought, this one's for Daddy's girl. So take a listen to Everlasting Lullaby, and then we'll be back with Brandon to ask him a few questions, how we can be in touch with him and what his future plans are. So everybody, please listen to Everlasting Lullaby by Brandon Scott Sellner. That was Everlasting Lullaby by Brandon. Brandon, I love that one. That's going to be
Thank you.
That's going to be a fantastic song. It's great. Do you ever plan on having people sing to your instrumentals? I mean, I know you used to do some singing, but I don't know what happened. You had some damage or something to your vocal cords?
Yeah, honestly, you know, years ago, I had a couple people close to me, bandmates, management, you know, saying, "Hey, are you feeling okay? What's going on, you know, with your voice?" And at first I really didn't know what they were talking about, but then I started noticing it was getting harder to get through gigs. And then eventually it was just, there was nothing there, you know, and I can maybe hum around the house a little bit or, you know, work on ideas like that, but it's just not where I want it to be. I kind of blame it on lack of training, lack of, you know, proper equipment, not using a monitor a lot of times when you're playing in a small venue or something like that. But honestly, it's been kind of a blessing in a way. It might sound crazy to some people, but singing was always something to me that was out of necessity. I always initially was focused more on guitar. And even though I enjoyed it and was able to, build a good career out of playing music and singing for quite some time, playing guitar is where my heart's at. And I plan on, continuing with that path for as long as I can,
Great. Well, I hate to have to wrap this up, but our timer is starting to blink at me, which tells me we're coming to the end of the interview. Why don't you real quick tell everybody how they can find you? And we'll make sure to post this on our links as well.
Sure. Basically right now, I just have my YouTube channel. I'll have to send you a link for that, or maybe you can find it. And then my artist page on Facebook, everything's kind of just in the starter stages. I'm hoping to push a little more in those avenues when I have more songs done or the full album done. But that's it. You can find me on YouTube and Facebook right now. It sounds kind of general, but that's where I'm at.
That's where everybody else is looking too. So Brandon, it has been our privilege to have you on our show this month, and this will play all month, of course, and several times. So you should get some great exposure with that. But I hope you come back and visit us when you're in the area sometime in Iowa again.
Very soon.
Yeah.
Very soon, hopefully.
Well, we thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is Heather Kelly with the Indie Music Room, and we will talk to you later. Thank you so much, Brandon. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
You've been listening to the Indie Music Room with Heather Kelly. Be sure to listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on FortDodgeRadio.com and subscribe for all our past and upcoming shows. The Indie Music Room is a production of FortDodgeRadio.com.